Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, wonderful soothing music, huh? Wonderful soothing music. And this is the Motivator Show, alongside, of course, Empress Abner. She'll be joining us shortly. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fantastic this morning. How are you feeling? Are you feeling revived? Have you exercised? Hey, feel good, think positive. This is where we translate our words into action. And where, of course, success is ours for the taking. Oh, yes, I'm feeling good this morning. I am really feeling good. Oh, yes. So this is the motivator. Let's get right into this show. It's going to be an exciting show this morning. So first of all, let me give appreciation to the Galaxy Afiri.net management and of course Jagai King who's taken us from night to day. Let's appreciate them because they are doing sterling works. Yeah? And of course, those of you listening to us or indeed viewing us via YouTube and Facebook, don't forget, give us a thumbs up, just press the like, just so that's an affirmation of the contents of these shows, these edutainment communication platforms we're utilizing are to your liking. Just give us the thumbs up. There we are. Let's do the graphics on screen. There we go. The thumbs up. There you go. The like. There's the like, the thumbs up. Or subscribe, a further affirmation, so you're notified of future programs. And of course, most importantly, share with your friends and family. Send it out to your networks. Details, the link to this show. And if you are privileged enough to receive a WhatsApp message, please don't forget to pass on that WhatsApp message to your friends, your families, your networks and others, okay? Spread the words. Our sole intention is to motivate you and others into action towards success. That's the purpose of these shows. So let me get right into it. Let's get right into it. Wasn't last week inspirational? Yeah, we had the opportunity to play samples of past shows. And it was quite evident, very evident from those past shows, that we've had the privilege of hosting guests who are truly inspirational. Truly inspirational. And it's ample evidence, if you ever needed evidence, that our community, the African communities, and I say that deliberately, whether you're from the continent or from the Caribbean, or indeed born here in Europe, in Britain, or the Americas, or other places, the identity is clear. We're not defined purely by our color. We're defined by our obvious and geographic heritage. We are African peoples, okay? We are African peoples. We come from a continent that is overwhelmed with wealth. Overwhelmed with wealth. I pause each moment I say that, because of course it's so critical for us, of course, to control that wealth. As one of my most regular guests on this show would always say, Ndidi Ichiwa, she says, of course, it's not Africa's natural resources, which is the source of its wealth. It's actually the technologies that derive from those natural resources. Let's keep that in mind. That's why education, the famous politician here in Britain was said only a few decades ago. That is the key. That is the stratagem we must pursue. To educate, to raise awareness, to acquire skills, that is the stratagem, the only stratagem that would lead to true and lasting reparation. Because reparations starts and begins with self. Starts and begins with self. So let's affirm why education in all its facets are critical to our future success. So even though many of us are born in Britain and we affiliate with Britain and Britishness, we still retain the essence of our African heritage. I know very few, if any, true-blooded Briton who would appreciate you if you don't appreciate who you really are, and expect and respect you. To express your cultural and historical heritage to them as part of your common discourse. Because they're very proud of their history and their culture. Yeah. Equally, we meet halfway in mutual respect and indeed understanding. How about that? How about that? And in doing so, growth, unity is possible. Because for us all, unity is strength. But what I want to do right now, I want to go into a segment of the show which is critical. Health messages. And this section of the show I take extremely seriously. Because unfortunately, again, this past strong, I had the misfortune to become aware of a number of members of our community who have demised, who have passed on to the ancestors too early in their lives. Too early in their lives. So it's reaffirmation. These health messages are critical. These health messages are critical. They're critical because they tell the truth. We have the power to define. We have the power to decide how long and how healthy we live. But we have to, ever so often, to be reminded of this fact. Because so many of us live in a world of the negative propaganda. Because what is not so good for you is so readily available. We eat it with abundance, consume with abundance. So the purpose of this show is to motivate you to actions and keeping in mind success, our success, your success, my success is there for the taking. So I want to remind you, and I implore you to think this through, what I'm about to say. I ask you to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you add to your meals, to whatever you eat, or you simply consume of others. Do you need to add the additional sugar to your teas and coffees, or consume those sweet items where you can taste the sugar in your mouth, not the food or the item, but the sugar in your mouth? Do you need to add additional salt to your cooking? or carefully think through the amount of salt on the food that's been prepared for you? And are you aware of the potential consequences of diabetes and hypertension? Are you aware that in our community, now when I say that, I mean African communities, continental African, Caribbean, British born, European born, American born. Are you aware in all of these communities, diabetes is a killer, it's a condition tens of millions of members of our community live with every day. In some cases, they're able to manage it. And you recall a past guest of mine, Lyndon Lizard, the inspired diabetic, the chef, because of his knowledge of food and food preparation. He was particularly able than others to prepare foods that will best serve his body. But nevertheless, even he had succumbed to diabetes. So it's important for us to think carefully on what is the right amount of sugar for your body. Yeah. And if in doubt, speak to your doctor, speak to a nutritionist, whoever has access to your medical records. Similarly, for salt, linked heavily to, amongst other conditions, hypertension or high blood pressure. I simply ask you to consider the amount of salt you're consuming, hardening of arteries, yeah, the difficulty for blood to curse through your veins and arteries, and the raising of the blood pressure. Okay. And you know, those of you with diabetes, the need to take additional insulin shots, yeah, constant testing of your blood. Those of you with hypertension will be well aware that you have to be very careful the amount of salt you're consuming, because with the heightened blood pressure, yeah, the effect it has on the entire body, your heart, your organs, and the potential and the likelihood of aneurysms. These are common ailments in our community, but we do not discuss them. But they are at epidemic levels almost in many parts of the world. And most certainly in the Caribbean, where Professor Hilary Beckles, the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, noted that even in his family network, diabetes was very prevalent. But across the Caribbean, diabetes is at epidemic levels. A relative of mine had just come back from Dominica. And what my relative was given wasn't herbs and natural items, but an abundance of sickly sweet items were placed in the suitcase. Can you imagine? It was just an abundance of sickly sweet items. And I mean sickly sweet. And I knew straight away when I saw it, when I saw these items, all I could see is diabetes. That's what I could see, diabetes. They were all just laden with sugar to excess. Diabetes, that's all I could see. But needless to say, I've not consumed any of them. Not any of them. So these messages haven't got through to far too many members of our community who live in the Caribbean. And it's killing us. It is actually killing us, causing our lifespan to be foreshortened by our actions. Because this is not totally ignorance. It is now stubbornness, habit. We can and we must do better. We can and we must do better. Equally, I ask you to consider the amount of carbohydrates and fat that we consume. Carbohydrates, of course, are typical ingredients in those wheat-based products. Mm-hmm. In the breads, yeah? Bread is a typical one, okay? Or indeed, the potatoes, another one for you. Mm-hmm. Or the yams, another one for you. Yeah? That we eat in abundance. The abundance, of course, is the problem. Eat in moderation is what is recommended by the experts. Starch, fat, carbohydrates. Let's go to the fat. Did you know that dairy products are just primarily another form of cow's fat? Cheese, hardened cow's fat. Butter, not quite so hardened cow's fat. You can spread it on your bread. Mm-hmm. Milk, primarily is another form of cow's fat or bovine lactose. I want that to sink in because it's such an important part of our diet. And we do it to excess. Starch. There we go, here's one for you. Primarily from the rice products that we consume. And we consume that in great quantities. Fat. Primarily from the meat products that we eat. And don't drain off all the excess fat. Because it's still in the meat, but the excess fat is truly harmful. Have you ever grilled lamb and observed what comes off? Or beef or steaks? Mm-hmm. To a lesser extent, the chicken. You see the fat pour off. And what I would, if in doubt, as Lyndon suggested, when you pour it off, let all the fat from the meat pour off into a bowl and just leave it overnight. And see what you observe, what you see in the morning. Would it be a clear liquid, or will you see a solid liquid? It's now solid. Not a result of ice, but because the fat coagulates and hardens at room temperature, typically from animals. And that's what goes on inside your body. It's coursing through your body, all of this fat. So, of course, our cholesterol levels go through the roof. So the salt causing our blood pressures go through the roof. The sugars causing our sugar levels, to go through the roof. Mm-hmm. And the starch we convert it and store in our bodies. So you see many of our people with bloated shoulders, bloated abdomens, bloated thighs, bloated buttocks. Oh yeah, those bloated buttocks. I understand in some circles it's supposed to be a feature for affection. I say to you, respectfully, respectfully, respectfully. That type of talk can only foreshorten your life. It is strongly recommended that, first of all, you consume far more fruits and vegetables, particularly green vegetables, but a broad range of vegetables, well, most certainly green vegetables. Because you can convert that into blood and extract the nutrients from it easily, because we are genetically predisposed to do so. It is strongly recommended that you consume between 2 to 3 liters of water per day. Now, that water can be in the food, or you have the, make sure you drink the water. There you are. You can hear it. Keep my water nearby. It will vary from person to person, but particularly if you're quite tall with a broad body, or short with a slim body, or medium height with a slim body. It will vary the amount of water you should consume. I'm not an expert. Speak to your doctor. Speak to your nutritionist. Yeah. Speak to those persons who've been trained to give such advice. They will provide you with a more accurate amount that's appropriate for you. But equally as important, all the experts will affirm, is that we must exercise every day. Exercise is critical. Okay? I know some people say, oh, but I go to work, that the travel to work is exercise. But in fact, exercise means that you're taking deliberate actions to exercise or to flex all the muscles of your bodies, not some of muscles of your body. You're taking deliberate act, a very deliberate act. So I wish to urge you to exercise. I did my exercise this morning. It's part of the reasons why I feel so much better, reinvigorated, so alive whenever I do these edutainment shows. It is critical. Even if you're able to do it for 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's a deliberate act of exercising your body that matters. Yeah? And over time, the period that you spend will increase naturally because you adjust to what your body is craving. Genuine exercise. It is absolutely critical. You cannot eat well, but don't exercise. Yeah? Your body is genetically predisposed again for exercising, for activity, genuine activity. What I'm doing right now, this sedentary style of transmitting to you, is in the long run harmful to our body, most certainly to my body, but I need to be active. So I ask you to think about those 2 or 3 pieces of advice. Drink the appropriate amount of water. Yeah, think it through. Yeah, ensure you are eating a balanced amount of fruits and vegetables, particularly green vegetables, and that you exercise every day. Absolutely critical. And the last reasons why these messages are so crucial, because I'm a elected public official. I see the stats, I see the figures, I see the evidence of the harm we do to ourselves by not taking care of ourselves. It is patently obvious that we've got to discuss this as a community, regularly discuss it, how to preserve our healthy, long lives that isn't burdened by illnesses. Yeah? We have it within our genetic materials, the ability to resist, but you have to help yourself if you want to be yourself. You've got to help yourself if you want to be yourself and not burdened by illnesses. So I simply ask you to consider all what I've said. Okay? I simply ask you to consider all what I've said. And mission critical, of course, is that in taking care of your physical needs, don't forget what your mental and spiritual needs are, because they complement your physical needs. Okay? And if in doubt as regards your mental state, please, I know it's difficult when you're in it, I urge you to seek professional advice. But of course, those of you who observe others who might need such support, please help them to gain professional advice. Equally, of course, we are spiritual people. Don't forget to take care of your spiritual well-being. This is only possible, of course. It's only possible if you take time to consider, to meditate, and to allow all the worries of the world to push away so you can focus on yourself and be yourself. Okay? And those who are your spiritual advisors, join with them so you can find that inner peace. Upon finding that inner peace, you find the strength you require to take care of your physical needs. Eat more fruits and vegetables, particularly green vegetables. Consume the appropriate amount of water. Exercise every day. If you can go to a gym, go to a gym. If you can afford a personal trainer, I urge you to do so, because that's the best investment you can make. There's an interesting presenter on galaxyafui.net. His name's Dr. Stephen Ferguson. And he always reminds us our health is indeed our wealth. Our health is our wealth. Mm-hmm. You can have all the money in the world. If you have poor health, it means nothing. You spend that money just to keep yourself alive. But it doesn't require money to stay healthy. It is very much a state of mind. That's why this is the Motivator Show, where we translate these words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. Oh yeah, praise Jah, Rastafari, Ashum. Oh yeah. Okay. Now hopefully we'll be joined by Empress Abner shortly, but I just want to go now into another aspect of the show which I've found very helpful. And you recall we've had some most inspired guests during the year 2022. Okay. The whole purpose of these shows, I remind you, is edutainment, both entertaining and educational. If we are to make a difference in this world, if we're to make a difference for our family and our friends and our networks, education, or raising awareness, if you like, is key. I said it again. Education or raising awareness is key. Why so, they say? Why so? Well, you can be a grown man in his 30s and be totally ignorant of your identity, your history, totally ignorant of most things that you encounter. And whilst you are a grown man, if you like, you're just totally ignorant. And at some point you ask yourself, why are you here? What is my purpose? Why am I being brought into existence? And I wish to assert to you, we are all here with a purpose, which is why the acquisition of knowledge is a critical part of that purpose or awareness raising. And through the acquisition of knowledge of self, first of all, understanding your own culture, your history, your traditions, it's an empowerment process. It raises your confidence, ensures you become determined, and affirm who you are as a man, or indeed as a woman. But general knowledge is absolutely critical. Knowledge of the world is critical if we are to grow as human beings, not necessarily Africans, as human beings. Yeah. I'm aware of too many people, even in my community, the African communities, upon leaving school, unless instructed to, acquire very little knowledge thereafter. Wow. Yeah. Wow. I pause there because it's such a profound statement to make. It is vitally important. It is absolutely critical that you do not cut yourself off from knowledge. You could be a 16-year-old or a 96-year-old. Your brain has the capacity to absorb new facts, new awareness. It has the ability to resolve new concepts, indeed to assume or purport new concepts. You have the ability to innovate, yeah? And most critically, you have the ability to find solutions to our and your condition. And thereby, you move our entire species forward. Yourself, your family, your friends, your networks, our entire species forward. Because we are but one single species. We are but one single race. Yep. We are indeed members of the human race. I pause there to let that sink in. Okay? Because these are concepts often the propaganda that far too many of us are exposed to. They want to place you all in silos. So we become less than we really are. Less than. To suppress who you really are. Yeah. Remember, knowledge is power to define. Okay. Remember, knowledge is the power to define. Okay. All right. I knew that would trigger a response from a few people. I've seen a few messages come up on my screen. That's fair enough. That's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely fine. I want to give a big shout out now then to Black Recommendations. Yeah. I want to give a big shout out to an organization that is intent upon progression. Okay. A big shout out to that wonderful couple, Hugh and Lorraine. Yeah. I'll put up some details about them later on. I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Carlton Brown. Yeah. The entrepreneur par excellence. Okay. The Black Entrepreneurs Report. You recall that wonderful report that provided an excellent overview of our community and the way forward. The way forward. It wasn't a series of self-recrimination. It was a thoughtful assessment of the facts, the details, and a path towards success. Because remember, success is ours for the taking. It is therefore easy to work with such people because what they represent are the antibodies in our community, as it were, yeah, counteracting those negative forces, which are designed to suppress, to prevent you from studying, to prevent you from acquiring knowledge, to prevent you from acquiring skills. There you go. To keep you suppressed, yeah, enable you to suppress yourself. Yeah, these are the many antibodies in the community. They're but a tip of the iceberg. And what I want to do today is speak to a teacher, an educationist, an author, a playwright, an inspiration, a natural orator. Such people are worth far more than gold bullion. As Ndidi Shewa would say, it's not Africa's natural resources which is the source of its wealth, it's the technologies that derive from those natural resources. And that's analogous here to knowledge, how to inspire one to become a self-learner, an inquisitive learner. These are habits best formed when you're young, but always possible to acquire as you age. Because very much when you're an adult, it's a decision. It is a decision you make. If you want to earn more, you will need to acquire new knowledge, new skills, if you like. So, to become a self-learner, an inspired learner, is a critical component for reparations, because reparations begins with self. And I want that to really sink in for many of you. Okay, because I know it can be rather challenging. Okay, who's this person to speak about these matters? Okay, when that person doesn't know your personal conditions, the trials and tribulations that you've been through, the hurt, the crying. Yeah. Believe it or not, that's just life. And whilst I don't know each of your individual circumstances, there are general patterns which are common to us all, okay? General patterns. Yeah. Because each of those descriptors are common to us all. We've all have or going through those experiences. So it's not the experience that matters, it is our response to the experience that is critical. Let me say that again. It's not the experience that matters, it's our response to the experience that is critical. You could have a series of just simply bad luck, but you have to have the mindset that this luck can only stay this way for so long. But you take deliberate actions to convert that luck into good luck. Absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. In my time in public life, I've been a school governor for a good few decades. So I encounter families, I encounter young people, I encounter mums and dads and guardians. And most certainly I've had to work closely with education as teachers. Okay. So it is most certainly true that the potential in our community is often understated. Okay. And every so often I come across young geniuses, boys and girls, young men and young women, okay, every so often. And you just listen by their simple persona. You know this is someone special. And such people, we all must gather around to give support. And my guest today is one such person who I was introduced to in a sort of tangential way. Okay, being a political representative, a public representative, I was introduced to this person because a family in my ward was in fact going through one of the courses. A whole family, not simply the teenager in this case, and they were all inspired. In fact, they had most of my guests' books with them. Okay. Most of the books. I was astonished. And I was being recommended to, put it this way, I was being recommended to speak directly at this time, maybe 2 years ago now, to my guest. Okay. But life and other things got in the way. You know? I didn't actually follow through. Until quite recently, I was reminded that I have not had the opportunity to interview my guest. Okay? And my guest has some special qualities, which I'll go into later on. But what I want to do, I want to see my guest arrive. I believe my guest has arrived. So I'm going to bring my guest into the live stream. Here we go. Let's see. Let's do a quick sound test and ensure that I am being heard. Good morning, David. Can you hear us all right?
Good morning, Councillor. Good morning. Yes, I can hear you fine.
Wonderful.
And, yeah, I'm here, and you had an additional bonus in my wife who works with me. She could she's here as well. So so you mentioned that you were keen for husband and wife teams, to participate. So so we're both here. Neb, you can see.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
We are honoured to have you here with us this morning. We are honoured.
Thank you. We're honoured to be here as well.
Good. And if I may, I want to emphasise why I have a strong propensity to support entrepreneurs of all types who are couples. Okay. I'm of the philosophy that if our community is to evolve, okay, we must move away from hyper-individualism, which has been the common norm in the community. Okay, and we need to demonstrate to children, those who are the forthcoming generation, that we working together as men and women are the foundations of the future of our communities. Okay? Whether you've been in the Caribbean, the Americas, here in Europe, or indeed in the motherland of Africa. Okay? Men and women working together in unity is the future. David.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I echo that. We started 1987. Mm-hmm. When we started, it was just myself and my sister, Dr. Leonora Simon Blaisdell, who's not here. And then a few years later, Ned joined us. And so there was 3 of us. And plus then I also had another sister of mine, Mary Anderson, who joined us. So the 4 of us have already built up Simon Education. We were known back in those days as Ebony Saturday Schools, because that's how we started. We started as a small Saturday school in Catford, and we only had 1 child. And But that one child was so important. Although we went on to have 6,000 children use our service, and in Africa, Neb will tell you later that we have about 4,000 children using our service. It was important because that's the first child that we developed our philosophy around of trying to unlock their genius and finding ways to do that. So that's how we started. So you're very correct when you say it is about teams rather than hyper individualism. We all think when we start, we think that we can do it all, but we can't. And when you study, Black history, African history, you find that it's teams, groups, and in particular, I'm an author of a book, How to Unlock the Genius of That Child.
David, I'm going to come to your book. I'm going to come to your book. I want you to pause just there, because you've now going into the interview. But before we do this, there's another reason why it's so important that we men are ensuring that the women in our spheres are center stage. It is quite obvious, and we may go around this as well as part of his interview, that currently there is an interesting dynamics occurring, in terms of how we prepare our children to become fathers and mothers, indeed, to become husbands and wives. And what I'm noticing across many of our communities, either in the Caribbean, here in Britain, the Americas, or even indeed in parts of the motherland of Africa, the reduction of the numbers of our peoples who are married and holding children in that secure space where men and women are working together to nurture children to adulthood. And what I found in my period of being a school governor is that far too many children were crying for their fathers. Far too many children were crying for love from their parents, from their birth parents. And it was quite evident to me that this needs to change. This needs to change. They are the unsung, sorrowful heroines and heroes in schools are our children. And I wonder if I can go to your wife, if you don't mind, David, because we men will talk a lot, and I've a number of your interviews, and I'm particularly interested in your wife because I believe the women usually have the solutions for us. Okay, because each of your products are Simon Education. I've got that. Okay, I want to speak to your wife because I have a feeling your wife is that magical component. Okay, and I want to just bring it out. I've got some wonderful women who are so inspiring. Okay, I want to hear your wife speak. If I may, with respect to you, you have a wonderful husband there. Tell us about your husband. Tell us about your husband. Come on, tell us.
What makes him so wonderful? I thought you were going to ask me what made me so wonderful. Okay.
That's why. I'll get to that in a moment.
Okay. I would say what makes David so wonderful is that he is very, very grounded in community. Very, very grounded in Afrocentrism. And he has always been. He has a vision of raising up the community. And the action has been through his books. And in writing his books, he still has had time for the family. His timekeeping is impeccable. His planning is just amazing. So all of this that he does, he still has time to spend a lot of time with the family. He makes sure time is spent with the family. And what else can I say? When he puts his mind to something, it gets done. It's not just words. Effort goes into making sure it's done, and we all try and support him. He has all the family. when he plans something, he pulls us all into it. He involves us all. For the family, for all the children have always been. We've been running the Saturday school right from, the beginning. They're there as soon as they're old enough. They're there helping and skilling up themselves and understanding. So yeah, that's what I'd say about David.
Wow, there you go. There you are, ladies and gentlemen, young people, and elders, of course. You hear it from the woman's mouth. What is inspirational? Now I'm going to go back to yourself, of course. Okay. So what are your qualities? Because clearly, I know what it's like. Because I'm kind of focused myself, and I may not be as good as your husband in continuing the family or staying as close to the family, although all what I do is for the family, he says. What about you? Why does the family work despite the enormous commitment you've decided to make to the community? Why does the family work and last for as long as it has?
Okay, I would say that our values are, we as a family, we have central values that run through all of us, and we all strongly believe in it and live it. We have always supported the Black community in all their activities, all the families. If there's an activity, we're steeped in it, whether it's I'm Nigerian, whether it's going to Nigerian events, just general events out in the community, all the family have always gone. So there's that kind of like tie to knowing who we are and always working towards knowing who we are. We do have a timetable on the children when they were growing up. It was very structured when they did their work, when they ate, eating together, discussions, always seeking opportunities to develop them. We watched the program, we would discuss it.
Yes.
We always discuss what was going on. So they're very politically aware to the extent that an incident happened at their primary school. And my children were the only children who picked it up, which we took up. It was around Black history and a story that was told. They were the only children that picked it up. And it's quite a serious failing, this story. They felt very aggrieved by, the story. So we took it up, and as a result, the teacher actually left the following year. It was that serious. Yeah. So they've always been very, very aware, and even as they've grown up, we try and support them, they try and support us. And so I think, that's why the family has worked.
Thank you. We needed to hear it from you, we need to hear this from you. Because honestly, as you said it so often, that we, particularly us strong-minded men, we need to ensure that the women who are the source of our strength, their voices are heard. I want to thank you. Thank you. Can I just move now into the next phase of the interview? And I want to, if I may, David, and indeed, how do I pronounce your name? And Neb?
Neb.
Neb. Thank you. I want to ask you both this question. Why choose teaching as a profession? And are you primary or secondary school teachers by profession? I'll leave either one of you to answer.
Okay, well, I came into education. My first teaching job, I actually used to teach theatre studies. I used to be writing resident at University of Warwick. That's my first teaching job after I left university. But my second was teaching in a pupil referral unit, where children had been sexually abused or emotionally abused. And that was before I then went into further education. So that's not my journey. I didn't intend to be a teacher. Running a theatre company, I used to run a black theatre company. It didn't really pay the bills, So I kind of went into teaching, but I brought the theatre with me. I brought that creativity with me, and so I went into FE. So although I went into FE, but I'd always been running Saturdays. So I was teaching preschool, primary, and secondary children at our Saturday schools. But my full-time job, and that it was teaching adults at FE College, and that's where I did my PGCE.
Oh,
So as an organisation, we've always promoted, we use qualified teachers, but we also use people like Neb, who are graduates, but come from other professions, and they come into that Saturday school space, and we give them experience, and we also give them training to be teachers in that Saturday school. Because Saturday school kind of demands a more rounded teacher because you work with families, and that's when Neb joined. It was her expertise in equality and working with families that kind of like also add to the mix teaching experience and expertise. Yep.
So did you say you were a reluctant teacher just by accident, did you say?
No, it was, I think when you got a calling, you just, and I thought I was going to work in theatre. I thought I was going to run my own theatre company. I'd written a play, actually it was on the Binge Rush. I'd written a play which did, really well, and we toured it nationally. So I thought that was my path, but the powers that be had other kind of like another path plotted for me.
Okay. Thank you. That's a useful insight. And Neb, so you are a qualified teacher now as well? Would that be right? Or
I'm not a qualified teacher, so my background is biochemistry. That's what I studied at uni. So I brought in science, and as David said, my profession is equality, diversity, and inclusion lead.
right.
So I brought that aspects of it into kind of like the work that we were doing as well.
Interesting. If I may ask my next question, we often hear that boys and girls have different learning styles, and therefore teachers must apply sort of different teaching styles. Now, is this true, or is this one of these fallacies that we often hear?
I think a lot is made about the four learning styles, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile.
Mm-hmm.
Really, all it really is, it should just simply remind us that when we're teaching, that we should use a variety of resources and approaches. So you might have a student who likes, to look at things, visually, and they learn through diagrams, except in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get bored with that. So you might have a child who likes to listen to instructions from the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do that for 1 hour, the child and the student and the teacher will get bored of it, you see. So learning styles awareness is simply to remind you to give variety to your delivery, and also to remind you that certain children, will have preferences, but you should use all of them. And what we should also remember is that every child is unique, but we should also be aware about the pace, the learning pace. So sometimes, just like with music, we like rhythm, you can get into a rhythm. So you should always use, when you're teaching, you should use group methods, the pairing of children, just different paces. So when you use group, it becomes a bit more dynamic. When you use pairs, that's another form of delivery. So I think we should be aware of learning styles, the four learning styles, but also learning paces, learning rhythms, and then that allows for, I think, a more creative classroom and learning experience.
Is there a difference between the genders, though, David?
I have found that there has been, now that could be that might not be innate, that might be through society, so when a child comes into the classroom, they've kind of been, a little bit engineered. But I find, because when I used to teach, whether I was teaching in Saturday school or whether I was teaching in, say, FE college, but the boys would want something with high energy, I would say, and they would come in with this energy, and you had to find a way also to calm that energy. I'd find this isn't across the board, but I'd find that the girls, young female students, will be perhaps more focused, but that meant you just had to tweak what you learned. So I used to use mixed media to get the attention of the boys, because I used to teach boys. I taught in Brixton for 16 years, and I used to teach boys who hadn't done well in school, had a lot of energy, sometimes couldn't focus. But the motto of our company is to unlock genius. And we used to do that. And I used to have to do that by the use of media. But even though I was teaching them English, I would show them films like Boys in the Hood, make them write a clip, show them a clip, make them write a piece on it, discuss it, etc. So it's just really, so there is a slight difference, I would say. But the journey for both the girl and the boy is one of the same. And for us, it was unlocking their genius, finding out what they're interested in, what they're good in, giving them the study skills they could develop. So I wouldn't make a big deal. I never really, as a teacher, made a big deal about the differences. But I was aware of those learning styles, and I was aware of the paces that you had to make the classroom dynamic. Otherwise, the student would lose interest, and they become very, very bored very quickly.
And if I may go to interesting, because you said biomedical sciences, yeah. Okay.
Not biomedical, biochemistry.
Biochemistry, sorry.
Yeah.
My son, you see, did anyway. And it's interesting, women in the sciences. Okay. And it's an interesting study conducted in Norway, which is very much an egalitarian society in so many ways. Okay. And it was interesting to note that there was a tendency for women not to be in the sciences. Now, is it what David said? It's societal. It's a bit of social engineering going on, or there's some other reason why the women would tend not to be in the sciences, particularly in IT, for example, which I've found to be remarkably masculine environment to enter into. Why might that be so? Why might that be so?
I would say, and research has shown that it really is societal. So it's the kind of that tendency to, when boys are growing up, the kind of toys they will play with, more Legos, more building things, cars that move, etc. And an expectation that boys are good at the kind of things that are required in science, whereas girls have been, mainly dolls, toys that don't really lend themselves to learning scientific principles. So they begin to think, as they're going through schools, that they're not good at, they don't have those skills, those mathematicals and as maths, etc. They begin to believe that they're not as good. And I wouldn't say it's just even gender. I'd even look at class as well. I'll put class in there too. Yes. So yeah, it's societal. Society makes girls believe that they're not good. They don't have those skills. It's hard. They're not able to do it. And also the type of jobs that they are looking to go into at the end. So aspiration as well comes into it. Yeah. Okay.
And thank you for that. If there may be an additional feature that women, of course, bear children, and there's a period in which a woman would be out of the workplace for that reason. Would that be a factor? Do you think that might?
It's a factor later in when they go into their careers. So most women scientists stay as researchers.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yes.
And quite often drop out once they have babies. They quite often then drop out because workplaces don't cater for women being out of the research environment for a while. And also it's a hard you're doing long hours if you're a scientist, you're in the lab,
Yes.
etc. So so the workplace, how it's set up and structured, doesn't help. So a lot of women will drop out and go into something that it's more suitable to raising a family. So you're quite right, yeah.
So if you were a policy maker, such as myself, either MP, councillor, or whatever, in government, give me maybe one or two policy changes that you would make in order to ensure that women can continue to flourish in their careers, even before, during, and after childbirth.
Well, number one is, and which is something, as I said, I went into EDI, Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion work. And one of the policies that I brought into a council that I was working in is childcare vouchers. So we used to, because childcare is very, very expensive.
Yes.
And quite often, it just doesn't pay to be working and paying childcare. So that's a reason women will drop out again. So we offer childcare vouchers, flexibility in working. So allowing, that's changed obviously because of the reset from COVID. There's a lot more home working, but at the same time, structuring the workday to allow for women to be flexible in their approach, as long as the work is actually being delivered.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the important thing. How they arrive at it doesn't matter, but as long as, and that's where the management comes in. Having the proper training of managers, so it's deliverable product that we're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah. So those would be the main things I would say.
I think that's quite interesting observation. So vouchers is interesting. Okay. Resources and of course flexibility in the workplace, which is an obvious one as well. And I think in both cases it's doable. It's actually doable, and you may well have caused a stir out there. Okay, and I've sent this video to other policymakers across the country. Thank you, Simon, for wonderful wife there, wonderful wife. So let me ask another question, and this is really to do with my early days as a school governor, and this question really comes out of that experience. How can parents best support their sons and daughters' educational development, and including their academic and social development? So academic, I separated quite deliberately, but social development, in recognising socialisation is an important part of ensuring a young man or young woman is able to thrive into their adulthood. Who wishes to go first on that question? How can parents support David?
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, so when we started in '87, virtually every week we went from one child, and after about a year or a year and a half, we had about 100 children. And every week a parent would be saying that. They'd say, what do I need to do? How can I help my child? And every week I would, literally verbally say, well, you can do this, that, you can take them to the library, you could introduce them to these books, etc. And after a few years of parents asking me this, I wrote the book, How to Unlock Your Child's Genius.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really showing parents very simply the 11 steps to working with their child, really taking their child on a journey. Don't wait for something to go wrong and therefore have intervention which might come late. Realize that your child is a genius.
Yes.
And that you have the skills to unlock this genius, and see yourself as a parent teacher.
Yes.
So as a parent teacher, you needed a little bit of training. So we started offering training in the Saturday school. I mean, step one, we used to focus on the curriculum, knowing, just having a general idea of, what is in the curriculum, and also looking at their diet, because we used to have children that used to come into school hiking. And when we used to have a small break for lunch, we'll open the box, we'll find fizzy drinks and food that wasn't really conducive for their learning. So we developed an 11-step program that looked at education and culture, the importance of Black history, the importance of working a space in the home where the parent can support the child learning. And even if the parent didn't have the skills to say to teach trigonometry, they could go online or purchase a book or get a tutor if that means and resources to go for tutoring, etc. So we focused on using very simple and practical measures to unlock the child. But the main thing was that the parent will facilitate the learning. So the parents saw themselves as a parent teacher. They recognize, yes, that the school has a classroom teacher. We could be classified as the community teachers, and that they could gather resources in the home, not only academic, but as you said, social. So books on Black history, encourage the parents to take their child to events in the community. And Neb was just mentioning that as parents, that's what we do, and perhaps you can talk about that. But that's what we did. We, although we were teachers, we also used to take our children to events, not only during Black History Month, but right throughout the year. Plus, we were exhibiting. We were exhibiting our books at major events in London, mainly in London, sometimes out of London. So there was a lot that the parents could do, and we, as I said, we should train them, and we should show them that it was important for them to take their children along with us on a journey. Sorry, Neb.
Yes.
What I would add to that is at the Saturday schools, it was quite a unique space in that all the children, we had a few Asians, very, very few, but mainly it was a Black space. And children in a Black space act very, very differently. They actually come together. Yes. You can see it's a community, and that was lovely. And Black history, would be teaching Black history, talking about Black, which they'd really get into and really get involved with. So yeah, taking them on events, Black events, in the home. Artwork that's displayed in the home is Afrocentric artwork. Mm-hmm. As I said before, if we're watching a film or program, discussing what's going on with them, our thoughts, what their thoughts. So that's all very, very important. And then families that, trying to involve other families that are like-minded as well, getting, interacting with them. So yeah, all that's really important.
Thank you. That's, in other words, it's fully engaged, not with the child, but with the whole family, in effect.
Yeah, I'll just add, and what we used to do, taking them on a journey, what you actually end up doing is reprogramming the home. Yes. Neb mentioned about Afrocentric pictures. I mentioned about books. It was really a complete reprogramming of the home, and that could only happen if you reprogram the mind of the parent. And many parents said to me after we did the course, and we should run the course, How to Unlock Your Genius, for the parents. The children will be doing their maths, their English, their science, and history. Groups of parents will come in and we'll run the course. And one parent I remember said to me, well, there's two different parents. One said to me, "Thank you for the course, because for the first time I feel that I could love my child." And I was shocked by that statement. I really was shocked because I didn't realize the impact the training that we have and the difficult relationship that some parents have with their children. Another parent said to me, her friends used to come around the house and they used to talk about, man this and man that, that use her language. And she said, it's changed the conversations in the home, you see. And those two comments and feedback were important because it kind of like showed that what we were doing was having an impact.
Yes. Well said, and well done. You know,
Can I add one more thing, which is food. So important that we have black food. You know, I'm going to put it on the black food. Get them to give it to them early enough so they will like their
that's right.
food from their, you know, their tradition. There's so many young people who, you know, just can't relate to their own food because it wasn't given to them early enough, and then parents wonder later when they trial, when they go out and, you know, to family members and grandparents, etc., and the children don't want to eat that food. So that's a really, you know, a big one for me. And food is a way of actually interacting with your community. A very, very important way of actually interacting with the community. So,
that's why you're here. That's why you're here. Beautifully said. It is, that's a profound observation. In the school that I was a governor, we introduced breakfast club. Now, this wasn't simply a breakfast club which has your traditional English foods. We had a whole range of beautiful Caribbean and African food at breakfast clubs. I assure you, those children became well-adjusted, calm, able to focus in the classroom setting. Beautifully said, beautifully said. But I want to ask this question of you, both of you, okay? Why co-found the Simon Education Service, and what are your guiding principles? I think you've hinted at a number of them, because I've got a few follow-up questions for you, but just set it out for us. Why co-found it, and the guiding principles that you operate within. So,
Right.
so David, you're going to go first, and I would as well. I want to hear from your wife first of all, if you don't mind. And
Okay.
I think the co-founding, I will leave to David actually. So maybe because I wasn't there at the beginning. I joined, you know, some years later.
But you are still very much look, you're here because I want to get that balance, the male-female balance. Okay, we have a struggle with men, I can tell you. Right? So I want to hear from you. Let's give us a flavour of the founding principles at the moment. And
I can talk about the founding principles. I'd say our founding principles is to listen and to consider and act. That listening is so important to what people have to say, what's been said around. Consider, there's so much misinformation going on, and then act. You know, that's really, really important. And I think giving support all children can achieve. Too often, you know, children are being pushed into areas that don't where they can't fulfill their potential.
Indeed.
And, you know, that aspiration and belief that all children can, you know, with the right support, they can achieve.
Yes.
That's you know, coming. And I think, as David said, the children have gone to, sorry?
Say that again. What did you say about all children? Say that again, please.
All children, if given the correct support, can achieve.
Can achieve. Say with that vigor. They can achieve. Huh? All right. Thank you. Thank you. David, come on.
Yeah, okay. Well, we co-founded, myself and my sister, who's not here, Dr. Leonora Simon Blaisdell. She's in Grenada at the moment. We co-founded it in 1987, simply because at the time there was you had the Rampton report, the Swan report, saying that African Caribbean children were underachieving, etc. And there was this constant narrative, and we really wanted to do something about it. So we just went around the corner. I went around the corner, hired a little youth club, and on the day that we opened, when I got there, they'd had what they call a blues dance before that in the space. And so there's all this beer on the floor, and you can still smell spirits and things like that. So I remember that actual day, just cleaning that space, putting out some tables, and I'd done a lot of advertising, but one child came in, and I was a bit disappointed, you know, because it's only one child. But what happened after that was that a DJ came with his child some weeks later or months later, and he went on. He's running a black pirate station. He went on his radio, told everyone about the school, and we did a good job with his child. And then we got bigger and bigger, and to the point where I think from one we went to 125 or so in over about a year or so. So we co-founded it. We were known as Ebony Saturday Schools then. We co-founded it simply to provide just simply maths, English, but we were also keen to do the creative stuff because remember I'd come out of theatre, and so we were keen to do that. Leonora, who's a scientist like Neb, she was keen to do the sciences, you know. So but really, perhaps we didn't articulate it at the time. We felt that we could unlock the genius of the child. We felt that all children had geniuses, and which was what Neb was saying there. So obviously, years later, I'd write the book, but I came across a definition. When I began to think more about what is genius, I came across a definition. I looked in a dictionary, genius said extraordinary abilities. But when I came across a definition in East Africa, which said extraordinary abilities and social responsibility.
Right.
And that kind of sums up what we are all about, you know, and our principles. You know, we are about unlocking this extraordinary ability and social responsibility of not only the child, but the family, you see. And that's really what we've worked towards. In order to do that, you've got to do a lot of work, which we did not realize at the time. You've got to write your own books because we were using books written by other people.
That's right.
So eventually we started writing our own books in maths, English, science, and history. We started writing our own teaching programs. We started writing our own, you know, our own policy documents, etc., etc. So we realized that we had to do everything, you know, and then start sharing this. So in our 35 years, I think it's 36 now. Yeah, this year is 36 years now. We've had to do that work, and we've exhibited our work in Africa, Caribbean, America, and really it's been a big journey. The guiding principles Neb, you know, was saying, and if Lenore was here, she'll say the same, is that how to unlock the genius of the child, the family, and the community.
Thank you. And what I want to do now is go to your website, and your website, of course, is simoneducation.com. For those of you who are not on YouTube or Facebook viewing this live, this is also going live out via, of course, galaxyafiwi.net, and of course via the Motivator Show on Mixcloud as well. I would go to your website because I want to, and if you don't mind, David, that I want to give promotion to your books. There are some truly masterful pieces of work here, and I've enjoyed reading them as preparation for this show. I'm astonished. Catford, I lived in Catford for much of my early life. And the fact that we are living in parallel lives, I find fascinating. Okay, and I might ask you after the show where you had your first Saturday school. I have a feeling I know the place where you were disappointed, unfortunately. Anyway, but let me first of all get this up on the screen. I want to get your fascinating site on the screen. And if you haven't visited, viewers, listeners, go to www.simoneducation.com. So I'm now on the. Can you see the website? Yes. You can see.
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to spend just a few minutes just to take us through. Let's start with this one here, the unlocking.
If you go up, if you go back up where you were,
okay.
Yeah. It's the first one on. Yeah, that's right. That one. That was the first one in the series, and. As I said, parents are asking me the same question. They're saying, some parents might say, I think my child has dyslexia. Another parent would say, how do I teach my child mathematics? Another parent would say, I want to teach my child Black history. So we, after probably about 11 years of running the Saturday schools, being a teacher, putting on plays in the community, I wrote this book, How to Unlock Your Child's Genius. And it consists of 11 steps to unlock the genius, which the parent can participate in and guide as well. And we did that. We wrote it probably about 20 years ago now, something like that. And we were asked to speak at, I don't know if you remember the Diane Abbott conferences on education.
Yes.
We were asked to speak at that. And I went in, and Neb was running the store. And I remember we literally got it on the Friday. The conference was on the Saturday. So we had a few boxes, and I delivered a talk on it called How to Unlock Your Child's Genius. There was probably about, 150 people in the talk, and then I packed up. When I came out, most of the books were gone. And that's when I think we realized, there was a need for it, and that we had made an important contribution. I can remember looking at Neb saying, where's all the books? So that was the first one, and that's the most important one. Since then, I think there is 38, 39 in the series.
Yes, I'll just go to the next row. And what you have here is of course, the How to Unlock Your Genius Using Black History, which is the most recent one, which I've read. And that is truly a masterpiece. I'm truly impressed by this book. Just tell us, we're not giving away the essence of the book. Just give the listeners and viewers a flavor of its content.
Right. Well, this one is, we looked at Black history because we're a school, and I said that we do things, look to do things in a practical way for the parents. I wanted a book that a parent could read and could help them with their own personal development, and help them also as in terms of community development.
Yes.
I didn't want a book that was too academic. So the book is divided into 3 sections, and it's we've based the course. We've got a course called a Black History course online that we deliver. That's it's based on the book, and the 3 sections are: we have a task assignment section where we say to people, do these tasks. Do this task on financial literacy. So we might be teaching, for example, Black Wall Street. Then we might say, do these tasks on financial literacy. But in order to have a case study on the whole story of Black history from 150,000 years ago in prehistory to now, because we go through Nubia, ancient Egypt, ancient Ethiopia, ancient Egypt, through to the medieval Ghana, Mali, Songhai, civil rights, etc. Right, and we do it globally. So we show how Africans migrated out of Africa, and so therefore Black history is in India, it's in China, it's in South America, it's in Europe, etc. So in order to do that, we had to have a case study running through it, and we developed a love story between Percy and Priscilla, and their marriage is in trouble. So they go to a doctor, a therapist who's really a fake therapist, or he thinks he's a fake therapist. He actually ends up doing good.
Information away, though.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the book. It's got 3 sections to it, and it's really a book on Black history to encourage personal development and community development.
Yes, thank you. And the other book I've read in preparation for this show is Garvey's Last Soldier. I was overwhelmed. In fact, I've only finished it 4 o'clock this morning, so I'm still on a high, I have to say. Oh, just, I won't do this. Just give the viewers, the listeners, a flavour of Garvey's Last Soldier.
Okay, well, as probably some of the listeners might guess now, is that I started off as a creative writer. I wrote, Railton Blues years ago when I was a student. I wrote this play next to it, which is Mountaintop, which is on the Windrush generation, actually, which we're trying to bring back this year. We are doing a lot of Windrush presentations, but we're trying to bring back that one. And Garvey's Last Soldier, I wrote about 23 years ago. And it was really showing how Garvey's legacy still has resonance in our community. So I used a contemporary story at the time of a young Black journalist investigating a murder. And in his journey of investigation, he rediscovers the principles of not only Garvey, but of many Pan-Africanists and Black history. And so it's very much a detective, kind of a detective stroke love story. And yeah, we did well with that. I think we sold about 2,500, which back in those days was a big deal for us. And that's how that book came.
I assure you, it is truly enthralling. Well done. And if I may, just go to the Mountaintop. Just talk about that book. It's I know it's an interesting term to use, the Windrush generation. It's only becoming in recent use. I've got to say, it's interesting how we attach ourselves to it. And I'm aware that the vast majority of us from the Caribbean did not come on the Windrush, but it's fair enough. It's fair enough.
Yeah.
Give the viewers, the listeners, a flavour of that book and why it's a book they really should purchase.
Well, that one actually is a play, and I wrote it again many years ago when Windrush was not a popular topic. You see. But I wrote it because my father used to run the West Indian Social Club in Deptford. Okay. And I always liked the feel and the spirit of it. And I felt that his generation, who were getting older at that time, hadn't been truly reflected. Sometimes when you talk about the Windrush generation, you only talk about the racism that they experienced, which they did. That is part of the story. I remember speaking to my aunt, and she said to me, it was an exciting time for us. She was training to be a nurse. They were meeting their husbands. They were having children and attending each other's weddings and christenings. She said it was exciting for us. They're sending money back home, sending for the children whom they might have had back home, So I remember that conversation, and I thought I needed to reflect that. So I wrote it, and we did it as an amateur production. It did well in Southeast London. Then many years later, I did it again as a professional production, and it was I think the British Arts Council of Great Britain came, and it got nominated for an award, and they funded us to do a national tour. So we did. I think we ended up doing 1 or 2 national tours, and it's really about that Windrush generation. So when we say Windrush generation, we mean those that came between, not simply in the Windrush, from 1948 to 1973. That's technically what the Windrush generation is. We came from the Caribbean, known as the West Indies then, to Britain. And that is a play about it, but it's a play about the aspirations we had, how we set up. So it's about a couple who set up a West Indian social club. And it's a little bit of a thriller because it has flashbacks to the Caribbean. As I said, it did very well. We had sold out performances. and we got nominated for a big award. But I'm proud of that because it did well. But funnily enough, about 2 years ago or a year ago, the BBC were interested in it, and it got through the various stages. And I think at the last stage, because they were looking to make it into a radio play, at the last minute they dropped it, and I thought to myself, this year being 75th anniversary, I thought, no, I should actually, get a few actors together and a young director, and put it on again, because it was very well received. We got excellent reviews, and it's an important part of our history.
I'm confident, David, that there are members of the community that would want to give you the necessary support and financial backing to put that play on again. I'm very confident, and I have that. That's hot off the press, I can tell you. There are others that would definitely want to support you. I'm just going to move us along. I'm just conscious of a little time. There are you have a whole range of books here, and I commend your website to the audience, simoneducation.com. The range of books are age differentiated. It is interesting because I often don't see this, where you clearly set out the year groups that the book is applicable to. So you've applied your professionalism to ensure it's appropriate and accessible for that age group. And that's therefore, regardless of their gender, you're very clear as to where a child should be when you compare the average on the usual scale for the national curriculum. So I would commend you for the enormous effort you put into this book. I bought 11 of them thus far, and I've sampled them, and they are excellent works. And I imagine, David, Neb, that for those parents or guardians who homeschool their children, these books are a useful basis, and we then go on to your online course in a moment. But these books will be a useful basis. Would that be fair?
Yeah, but what do you say?
Yes, definitely. And they're aligned to the national curriculum. They're Afrocentric, so a lot of the stories are Black, and images are used, Black sayings are used, so definitely.
So if I may, what I want to do then is now connect to the other part of your website, which of course are the online courses. So just take us through some of the online courses and why they have been designed as they are.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That page is the online school. We do have courses. Our online courses, our most popular one is Black History. That's an 8-week course for adults. Yeah. We also do one on business, how to start your own education business with Simon Education. That is very popular as well, especially with women. We need more men doing that course, but that's really, really popular with women. And that shows us how to, we show people how to start their own Saturday schools, online tutoring agencies, homework clubs, run Black History courses, etc. So that's very popular. And then we also do events like Kwanzaa. We just did an online Kwanzaa. We also did, perhaps Neb, you can talk about the book festival. We do an annual book festival, which this year is going to be live. We went online because of the COVID, but it's going to be live at London University.
Okay. So just to be clear, I see we've got your schedule up for 2021.
Yeah.
Or
2020. Yeah, we needed to update that actually. Sorry, that's mine. But basically, these are some of the courses. We're actually running more. We're actually just finished the new timetable for 2023, and we're going to be running these courses and more. So the courses online, Black History, start your own business, We've got a new one called The Science and Art of African Living. If you could click on, I think it's Black History. If you click on that one, Black History.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah, that's an eight module course, and that comes with a course workbook, and it's based on the book. It's based on this book, which your listeners can get from our website.
Very good.
Yeah.
I have to say, I perused this one. I found it fascinating. Part of one of the modules here is how to become a research activist. Module 2, how to defeat the spell of family destruction. Module 3, how to use African art as a cultural therapy. Module 4, how to use classical African cosmology. Module 5, how to become a superhero.
Yeah.
Module 6, how to become a revolutionary. Module 7, how to build Black social organizations. And of course, your last module here, how to be the solutions. Wow. You must love him so much, Edna, man. You must love him so much.
No.
Oh gosh, I read this with such it gave such pleasure to me.
No, when we do the course, what we do, we really encourage the artists, the poet, everybody to come and do the course, because we have to find innovative ways to deliver African history, Black history, you see. And as I said, my background is, yes, I'm a qualified teacher, but also my background is also in theatre. So all my books have an element of theatre to them.
Can I add? There's also Windrush, the Windrush course that David runs, and that's for schools and for organisations. So if there's any organisations or schools out there, particularly as it's the 75th, as David was saying earlier, year of Windrush Day, it's a very, very engaging, interactive course. And it's gone so well. We've run it for a number of organisations now. It's gone down really, really well. So that's one to definitely look out for.
Thank you. I definitely will send details through to me once you have it handy. And I note on this particular course, on the Black History course, there's homework, and I just love homework. And I'm going to read it out again, because I can show you. You put a smile to my face. Module 1 for homework attached to this course is on the life of John Henrik Clarke. Oh wow! Module 2, homework on ancient Africa. Module 3, homework is on African art. And module 4 on ancient Africa. Okay, and this is interesting to read these sarcophagus. The sarcophagus, get it right? Libation bowl, Rosetta Stone, Jabaka Stone. Wow, I found that fascinating. Module 5, early Christianity. Module 6, an issue of close to my heart, on reparations. That's the homework course. And of course, module 8 is, of course, on development. I have to say, I'm going to join your course. Okay, I'm going to join this course. I'm going to join this course, because truly, if I was assert, and I've not even attended the course, that if an adult attended this course and committed themselves to follow the course through all your modules and diligently undertake the homework, then that person at the end will be a transformed individual. Yeah. If you've been born here, or indeed born in many places in the Caribbean or the Americas, to have taken this course, you will become a transformed and truly empowered individuals. And here on this show, we say success is ours for the taking. I want to commend this course to the entire world, but most certainly to my family, friends, and networks. Outstanding, absolutely outstanding. I've been looking for you, David, all my life.
Okay, nice to meet you.
I'll take this off now. So if I may then, just go back to the final part of our last few minutes, and I just want to do this because maybe we're going to have you back again, and I'll open the phone lines and we'll take a few more questions, I think. But this opportunity is really an introduction, because we've been pursuing parallel paths, but the paths are precisely the same. Okay. Tell us about your work in Africa and the Caribbean, because you said at the beginning you have 6,000 children.
Yeah.
Oh, tell us more. More about
right.
your work.
Yeah. Did you want to start on this one?
Oh, okay. Our work in the Caribbean and Africa is around the scheme we have called the Family Education African Development Scheme. And it's about providing resources, educational resources to schools right across the Africa and the Caribbean. And at the moment, we've been in touch with about 19 schools in Ghana, Sierra Leone, Uganda, Gambia, and Botswana, and we're about to move into Nigeria and Somalia and Guyana as well. And we've traveled, but we actually provide teacher training as well. So it's like books, pens, teacher training. And last summer we were in Gambia, and we could really see that our work was needed. We're talking about schools with absolutely nothing. Corrugated irons is the wall. Children sitting on floors, no books, no pens. Can you imagine learning under that kind of? So we try and get people to sponsor, bring help us collect resources that we send out to these schools. So that's kind of what we're doing out there. David, do you want to?
Yeah. So again, from our 36 years of work, people used to come to us, 30 years back and say, I've got a school in Nigeria, can you help us? And we used to do it on an ad hoc, but about, say 4 years ago, we decided to make it systematic. So we started the Seeds Project. Again, you can go to our website. We started the Seeds Project, and we just this year we did a teacher training to several schools in Gambia.
Give me, David. Yeah. Can I just ask you, just Seeds is an acronym?
Yeah.
And so you may just want to say what the acronym means.
Yeah. So it stands for Simon Education African Development Scheme. Yeah. And so the scheme is spreading. We're helping about 4,000 children, we estimate there. It will be more because we're providing, we're providing teacher training. So it's 3 modules. The first module is called How to Be an Effective Teacher, because a lot of the teachers tell us they have limited teacher training. Some they don't have formal qualifications to teach. So we do that. The second module is on how to be an effective Pan-African teacher. And the third module is based on one of our books, How to Unlock the Genius of the Child. And those 3 modules, plus the educational resources, that's not only educational resources, we also provide resources on health. So Neb leads on one of the aspects of it. We provide sanitary products for the girl students. We also provide lights for families, children who, when they go home, they may not have electricity in their home, so they can do their homework. We're talking about the learning styles. We also provide teaching resources that you can deliver those 4 learning styles. Because some of the schools are very, the children sit down all day and the teacher just speaks directly to them, so they don't really engage in the learning, simply because they don't have resources. So we give them a lot of tactile resources, art, and Afrocentric books, and the Afrocentric books are absolutely essential. We should really, and we do, we provide those to schools here, but schools here can afford it. The schools that we're working with in, say, the Caribbean and in Africa, they have limited access or no access at all to this book. So essentially, that's what we do. And we also now provide a manual to the schools to show them how to implement this. So it's quite complex. It's not it's education, it's health, it's power. We try and encourage the schools to take on people who are out of work, to give them work experience around the project as well.
We also have created an online resources where it's all Black books that Black children are the main characters, and it's free. So free books that wherever you are in the world, you can access it, and you're able to read lots of books. And it's called AfroLit Lab. And again, maybe we can send you a link later to the online resource.
I'm just conscious of my time. But my last question very quickly, maybe for a minute or so, how can listeners, parents and others support you? How can they make contact with you? I'll just take this off.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would say we do need support, especially with the Seeds Project. So they can support us. We have a link that they can use, support us with that project. So they go to the website. They can contact us this way, and they can either attend our courses. They can also purchase our books. When you purchase the books, especially the book "How to Unlock Your Genius Using Black History," that gives us funds, revenue to do the work that we can. But this is our contact. This is how you can contact us. Or you can send an email to info@simoneducation.com, info@simoneducation.com. But purchasing our books is a really good way to help us. And if you email us, you can join our WhatsApp group as well. Neb, was anything else I missed?
Yeah, we're always looking for sponsors. It doesn't matter how little. If you're able to donate £10 a month or just one off, for the resources that we send to Africa and the Caribbean, that would be great.
And just for benefit of the listeners and viewers, there are a number of these schools that in those countries I've made contact with, and they all report outstanding results. The commitment, the love shown by this couple has had a ripple effect that will continue, I believe, down the ages. On behalf of the community, David and Neb, I want to say to you both, thank you, thank you, thank you. And long may you continue your outstanding work. And whatever we can do here to support your work, our doors are always open to you both. Say thank you so much for being an outstanding guest today on The Motivator Show. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for having us.
My blessings, and may the ancestors follow you always.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the great work you're doing.
Okay. And to the audience, thank you all for listening and viewing what has been a truly entertaining, educational experience. And I say to you all, remember, success is ours for the taking. We must translate all of these words into action. And to the next strong, I remain the motivator. Praise be to you all. Praise be. Wow.